Up next this week on the FromSoft firing range is Dark Souls 2, specifically the Scholar of the First Sin edition, for two reasons. One, because I actually own the DLC with the Scholar of the First Sin edition, and two, fuck vanilla Dark Souls 2. Fuck it in its sloppy, overstretched asshole. That is a bit exaggerated, but mostly it's because Scholar of the First Sin is the better edition of the game in my opinion, and also because it comes with all the DLC attached, and I don't have the DLC for my console version of Dark Souls 2. In all honesty, however, even if I did, I would still sit down with Scholar because I strongly dislike the original build of Dark Souls 2. However, I'm getting ahead of myself, so let me back up. Oh, and I would also like to apologize for the choppy footage. I have a toaster for a machine, and it struggled to run recording software and Dark Souls 2 at the same time, so I'm gonna have to ask your forgiveness for this really bad frame rate. Anyway, Dark Souls 2 is the sequel to the original Dark Souls, which came out 3 years prior. See, you knew you all came here for a reason. This is obviously highly educational. We all learned something. Getting back to it though, Dark Souls 2 was famously developed by a B team within From Software after the massive success of the original Dark Souls. Hidetaka Miyazaki didn't direct it this time, however, he fit into a supervisor role. This time it was co-directed by Tomohiro Shibuya and Yui Tanimura. It was stated that they didn't have any intention of changing the controls, which they stuck to pretty well. Really the only major difference is that they changed the way you jump, but they gave you the option to change it back to the old way in the options menu, so it's kind of a wash. Still, it's pretty evident that they took liberties with the way that they design and put the world together. Depending on who you talk to, this is either an improvement or a detriment to the game. While Dark Souls 2 was critically and commercially successful, it's pretty standard across most of the fan base that Dark Souls 2 fails to live up to its predecessor. Why is this? Well, if I had to attempt to put my finger on it, I would say it's the small ways in which the mechanics were changed. Essentially, out of either desire to innovate or just to change the sequel up enough to make it feel new, Dark Souls 2 makes the decision to combine the mechanics and design of both Demon Souls and Dark Souls before it and just kind of see how it plays out. For instance, while Demon Souls had nothing but finite consumable health items where Dark Souls went for that set Estus Flask for healing, Dark Souls 2 attempts to combine the two systems. So now, instead of having a base 5 Estus Flasks when you rest at a bonfire, you start off with only one. However, there's items known as life gems that serve as sort of the moongrass-like item. You can buy them from a lot of different NPCs, but you do have to farm souls to buy them. This is the exact thing that drove me nuts about Demon Souls, but fortunately you can unlock more Estus Flasks in the game by finding Estus Flask shards that you give to a particular NPC that grants you more uses. However, they're decently rare and most you have to go out of your way for. There is one you can get right away in the starting area, so if you know what you're doing, you can boost it up to 2 Estus Flasks right away, but 2 Estus Flasks is basically nothing compared to the shit that the game has you fighting against even early on. This does improve on Demon Souls since you do have at least 1 Estus Flask to help keep grinding for souls, but when you first start the game, you'll find yourself dying over and over with little help for healing until you find that first NPC that will actually sell you life gems. Personally, I think the way Dark Souls handled healing was great, and I think that Dark Souls 2 is poorer for having changed it. Another big change I'm pretty unhappy with is weapon degradation. That did exist in the first Dark Souls, but it took a long time and it was really easy to fix. In Dark Souls 2, your weapon's durability recharges every time you rest at a bonfire, but the weapon degradation happens about 1,000 times faster than it did in the first game. It's actually so bad that early on, before you reinforce your weapon, you'll be struggling just to make it from bonfire to bonfire without your weapon breaking. Pretty soon you'll find yourself carrying 2 weapons just not to get caught with your dick out when your primary weapon breaks. This is a huge blow to the exploration aspect of Dark Souls 2 because you'll feel hesitant to go see what's in the little nooks and crannies of the level since it's highly likely your weapon will break and you will get graped to death by even the lowest level enemies. Now, one of the mechanics they sort of brought in from Demon Souls is how death affects your health bar. In Demon Souls, when you're human, you have a full health bar. However, when you die, your health bar is halved until you either kill a boss or find a rare item that restores your health. In Dark Souls 2, every time you die, your total health bar shrinks until you've died enough times that it's down to half. You can use the item that recovers your humanity anywhere you want instead of just being able to use it at bonfires like the first Dark Souls, which is nice, except it's also a rare item. So if you get stuck in a really hard area because you're dying over and over again without much of these items, you're stuck and it's awful. It doesn't matter how much you level up your HP, if you get stuck at half health with no humanity items in the later game areas, basically anything will one-shot you. The thing is, unlike the first Dark Souls where the mechanics were clearly designed with all the areas in mind, Dark Souls 2 feels like the mechanics were grab-bagged from the first 2 games separate from the level design purely to experiment with them. There are some areas where the changes in mechanics are fine and don't really change the feel of gameplay much from the first Dark Souls, but there are some areas that are so bad they do nothing except but show why this this mishmash of mechanics just sucks. The big one that comes to mind is the Iron Keep. This is a mid-game area that takes place in a castle that's sinking into lava. This area makes me want to shoot somebody in the face. Honestly, I cannot think of a worse area in any of the Souls games as hard as I try. It's a linear walk along thin pathways covered in tanky knight enemies that do ridiculous damage and come running up on you from every conceivable angle. They are actually purposefully placed so that a lot of them you can't see, but they know that you're there through walls and shit and will chase you through the entire level. Not only that, but there are archers everywhere. So you have to fight off several knights at once while also dodging arrows and trying not to fall into the lava. The two main bonfires in this area you can access without having to kill a side boss are on opposite ends of the level, and good luck trying to run this area because it is almost impossible. Dark Souls 2 has this mechanic where after enemies are killed 15 times, they just stop respawning, and honestly I believe it's because somebody play tested this area and knew people would just quit if that didn't happen. Mechanically, this is where it all falls apart. You'll die a ridiculous amount of times, so your health bar will always be short. There are so many enemies that attempting to fight your way through without at least a +5 weapon will result in your weapon breaking over and over. You'll find yourself going back and forth between the first Iron Keep bonfire and the hub area every 2 or 3 attempts just to buy more life gems. There are about 6 or 7 parts of this linear run that are beginner's traps where they hide enemies specifically so that they'll sneak up on you and kill you before you even know they're there. This area has always been a horrible slog and has been in the past where I've stopped replaying through Dark Souls 2 and choose to go do something else. I'd say another one of Dark Souls 2's shortcomings are the boss fights. They aren't bad, really, they just don't have the memorability of Dark Souls 1 bosses. Dark Souls has so many boss fights that are permanently etched into my brain. Gwendolyn, Gaping Dragon, Ceaseless Discharge, Nito, Gwen himself. However, Dark Souls 2 has more memorable areas rather than bosses. I'll always remember areas like No Man's Wharf and the Shrine of Armana, but I struggle to basically remember any of the Dark Souls 2 bosses. I've played through this game probably 24 times since it came out, and I honestly couldn't remember what the major Lord Soul was that was beyond the Shaded Woods. It took me several minutes to actually be like, oh yeah, that's right, the big 2-headed spider. I always forget about the church boss fight, I always forget about the old giant, I always forget about the twin dragon riders. I typically can recall the major 4 from the first half of the game, the dude with the mirror, and the Song of Demon. That last one though, only because it's past the other majorly awful area in this game, the aforementioned Shrine of Armana. While this video has turned into some kind of a major shit on Dark Souls 2 fest, I do want to stretch that this game isn't bad. It functions well, it runs on a lot of different machines, it has a huge map and a lot of stuff to do, but it is complete bullshit. See, regardless of the fact that I spent more time with this game over the last 8 years than with members of the opposite sex, I've never played the DLC before. And after attempting them this time, I decided against it. Everything up until now I had written down before working my way through the late game content of Dark Souls 2, and I've now come to the conclusion I will probably never play this game again. To badly paraphrase one of my favorite Death Grips quotes, Dark Souls 2 is cool, but there's more things in life. Like slamming my dick into a kitchen drawer all fucking night. Going back to the late game area, Shrine of Armana, I mentioned a few sentences ago that it was, quote, majorly awful, unquote, but even that doesn't do it justice. This area is complete bullshit on behalf of the game designers. Magic casters everywhere that cast homing soul arrow at you and can see you from across this fucking massive cave. Hard to spot enemies that can move faster than you and cause bleeding damage. A fog wall surrounded by enemies in a way that ensures you can't run past them and get through it in time. Fuck anyone who thought any of this was a good idea. This design philosophy carries over to the DLC areas also. Just massive amounts of enemies everywhere, with winding maze-like levels that ensure you'll just keep running and trying to figure out where to go. Trailed not far behind by a conga line of enemies that would rival a Jimmy Buffett concert. So I hope you have lots and lots of human effigies, you fucking scrub, because without them you'll be spending an unfortunate amount of time with half health. Sure, some of the DLC bosses are cool, but by this point I was so burnt out I honestly couldn't care less. This game wore me out so bad, as a matter of fact, I'm actually no longer looking forward to finishing this marathon. So I guess, in summary, don't just fuck vanilla Dark Souls 2. Fuck all of its iterations and everything to do with Dark Souls 2.
Later,